at 15 years old, she left Britain to join Islamic State in Syria. Now Shamima Begum is stuck in a refugee camp there after the Supreme Court ruled she can't return to the UK to fight her citizenship case. This is what she said about the Manchester bombing. She was asked, she said it's a two-way thing, really, because women and children are being killed in the Islamic State right now. It's kind of retaliation. Their justification was it's retaliation. So I thought, OK, that's a fair justification. So she thought the Manchester bombing, fair enough, that, young girls in this country were blown to pieces, because that was retaliation for people trying to stop Islamic State from wiping out the world. So should Shamima Begum be allowed to return to the UK to fight her case?
Well, joining us now, Dr Rakib Ehsan, who is Research Fellow at the Henry Jackson Society, who thinks we should not allow her back, and human rights barrister Adam Wagner, who says she deserves a fair hearing. Good morning to you both. Adam Wagner, I think a lot of people will take the view that Piers does. She's done despicable things. She went and joined ISIS. She became an ISIS bride. She said some disgusting things about, as he says, the Manchester bombing, about seeing severed heads. What is your argument that someone who has done and said and believed those things should still be allowed back into the UK when she is a national security threat?
I mean, I would agree with what those people are saying in essence. And, she's done some terrible things, going out to fight for a foreign army, which is against everything we stand for. The things she said are despicable. But this really comes down to due process. She's not been charged with a crime. She's not been convicted of a crime. What is at issue here is whether, if someone has their citizenship taken away, which is the most severe penalty the state has available to it, if someone has their citizenship taken away, should they be able to challenge that? If everything is right and the Secretary of State has made the right decision, then there's no risk. But what if he's wrong? What if he has rendered her stateless, which is against international law? She has to have the opportunity to challenge that, as anybody, any British citizen should have. And don't forget, she was born here, she was raised here. She has no other citizenship.
As I understand, I know that she's in this camp currently, but she does have a legal team, doesn't she? She wouldn't be fighting this on her own from a camp. She has a legal team who are able to do that. So what is the need for her to actually be present in the UK?
Well, I mean, as I understand it, the courts have very straightforwardly found that she cannot participate fully in her proceedings. So there cannot be a fair appeal while she's in Syria. And in fact, what the Supreme Court has just said is that she can never have her appeal while she's still in Syria. So it will be suspended indefinitely unless some way is found of her being taken somewhere where she can participate, and that's never been offered. So at the moment, where she's stuck in a sort of catch-22 because she has had citizenship taken away. The Home Secretary has said, well, she can potentially get citizenship in Bangladesh because that's where her parents are from. But Bangladesh have washed their hands of her just as Britain has. So she is now stuck. And obviously, as I said, a lot of people will say, well, that's fair enough. She's made her bed and she's laying it. However, we have brought back hundreds of similar cases. And it's not completely clear to me why somebody like Shamima Begum could not be brought back to the UK so that we can do what we do best in Britain, which is give fair due process and a fair trial, and then she can always be deported.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a good point there. I wouldn't let any of the ISIS killers come back under any circumstances. But Dr Rakib Ehsan, what is your response to that? Because from a legal point of view, it does seem to be slightly inconsistent. So why are we making an exception for Shamima Begum, as appears to be the case?
Well, if you look at the Supreme Court ruling, they made the point that when it came to the Court of Appeal's decision, where they stated that her right to a fair hearing should trump national security implications, they said that that was wrong. And the point I'd make is that when it comes to individual rights, they are ultimately set against broader public safety and national security implications, which is why ultimately I welcome this decision, because I feel that all too often when it comes to these kind of cases, the individual rights of those who, for example, joined prescribed organisations, they're ultimately prioritised over broader collective security. And I think that it's very important that we consider those points when we look at cases
Dr.
such
Ehsan,
as
I
this
just
one.
wonder, I understand that that was the Supreme Court ruling. I just wonder why she, as an individual, is particularly a national security risk. And we have superb ability to make sure that people, you know, I mean, she obviously would be incarcerated here, presumably, or kept under surveillance, you know, while this is going on. So how come she as an individual is considered a risk as opposed to the many others who have been brought back?
Well, I beg the point, Susanna, just because there's people who have returned from ISIS, that's not justification to keep on continuing with that particular trajectory. There's existing government data which actually shows that when it comes to ISIS returnees, the prosecution rate is very low. Around only 1 in 10 ISIS returnees are successfully prosecuted. And much of the reason for that is because it's very difficult to collect evidence when it comes to public authorities collecting evidence and investigating crimes and offences which may have been committed in conflict-ridden foreign territory.
I just wonder whether, because she did interviews, whether she has drawn attention to herself and therefore she's sort of being used as a symbol.
Well, she also publicly expressed no regret. I mean, Adam Wagner, I want to play a clip from her here.
I don't regret it because it's changed me as a person. It's made me stronger, tougher. You know, I married my husband. I wouldn't have found someone like him back in the UK. I had my kids. You know, I did have a good time there. It's just that then things got harder and I couldn't take it anymore. And I had to leave.
I mean, no regrets, had a good time until right at the end when it all fell apart, when ISIS fell apart. You know, people will be watching this going, this woman shows no remorse, no regrets. She's a grown woman. Now, she had time to think about what went on, but has no regrets about it. She could look at severed heads in bins. It didn't faze her remotely. I would say she does present a very clear ongoing danger to this country.
At the same time as that, though, she was asked if she can change or be... Sorry, but it's part of the same interview series. If she was asked if she could change or be rehabilitated, and she replied, I am willing to change. I actually do support the British values. I'm willing to go back, ISIS. Settle and rehabilitate.
Right, but as things stand, she's 21 now. She hasn't denounced ISIS, hasn't said anything, really, to criticise them. And Adam Wagner, isn't this part of the reason that they consider her to be a danger? Is her thinking, her ideology, appears to still be stuck in this position that ISIS was not a bad thing.
I mean, it's possible. As I said, I'm not defending what she said. I just think that in this country we don't do trial by media, trial by sort of public opinion. That's been, you know, our centuries-old approach, going back to Magna Carta, is we have due process, and that's really what this is about. Is, you know, and I agree, it's a very difficult sort of moral decision as to, you know, this is somebody who's grown up here, who went out as a 15-year-old, who has clearly had some sort of radicalization. What do we do with her? Do we wash our hands with her? Do we say she is not our problem, take her citizenship away on the basis that she may have citizenship somewhere else, or can we bring her back here and allow her to fight that? And maybe if it's the right decision, she can be stripped of her citizenship, she can be deported. And if it's the wrong decision, it's the wrong decision.
But if all these suspected ISIS fighters, as we've just heard, are being brought back in because of the lack of evidence gathering that's available from the battlefields in Syria, most of them are not getting prosecuted. So we have all these people who were out there fighting for ISIS, possibly doing despicable things, who are just walking away scot-free. I mean, I think a lot of people in this country will feel incensed by this.
I agree. It's a really difficult decision. What do you do with all these Brits who go out and fight for ISIS? But in the end, we're speculating here because we don't know what the evidence they have against Shamima Begum is. We don't know what her state of mind is now. It's very difficult to know from a TV interview what kind of pressure she's under. And I'm not saying we need to sympathise with her and what she's done, but what we do need to put this in front of a court. And the courts have now said we can't hear this appeal until she's back in the UK or in some other place where she can fight the appeal, and therefore she is stuck. And I think I just want to, you know, for people watching, they may think, well, this would never happen to me. I'm not a terrorist. I don't have these views. But what I ask this: what if you were falsely accused of something while you were abroad? What if you had your citizenship taken away and then the state said, well, not only are we going to take your citizenship away, we're going to remove the opportunity of you being able to fairly fight that? You'd be completely stuck. And that is a lot of power for the government to have.
Your response to that point?
Well, I'd make the point, I have the same ethnic background as Shamima Begum. I'm also Bangladeshi origin, and since the Supreme Court ruling, people have asked me, oh, Rakib, are you feeling a bit insecure about your UK nationality? But I just reply that I have firm respect for the rule of law, and I'd much prefer a quiet trip to the English countryside than going to ISIS-controlled foreign territory to join a proscribed organisation. That's the way I replied.
Yeah, if you make... I think you make your terrorist bed in the way that she did, then you've got to lie in it. But anyway, I know other people don't agree. It's an interesting debate. Thank you both very much indeed for joining us.